Welcome to the module. The focus of this module is making your lessons learner-centred. So, to get started, I'd like to ask you just to take a minute to think back to the very last lesson you taught. Imagine someone walked past the room 10 times during your lesson, and each time just stopped about half a minute to quietly observe through the open door. How many of those 10 times would you have been talking, do you think? 8 or 9? 5 or 6? How many times would the observer have noticed your learners talking to each other? There are lots of ways to make a class learner-centred, and less teacher talking is one of those. You'll think about all of this during this unit.
I work in a poor school where the learners don't have a book each. Some of them have books, but not many. I have a student's book and a teacher's book, but there is no photocopier. The learners sit in rows which are very close together. Last week, I did a lesson which used a reading text from the student's book. It was a passage about London for grade 5, about 11 years old. I wrote up the text on the board and asked the learners to copy the passage into their notebooks. I waited for the learners to finish copying the text, but some of them are very slow at writing. When the girls at the front of the class had finished, I asked the class which words they didn't know. I translated the new vocabulary. I rubbed off the text and wrote up the comprehension questions. I asked the students to copy the comprehension questions into their notebooks and then answered the questions in full. I wanted the learners to write long sentence answers. I asked the learners with books to share with each other and answer the questions together. When the learners had finished their answers, I asked them to bring their notebooks to me and I corrected their answers.
You can see that the teacher is very active at the beginning of the lesson, writing on the board a lot. The problem is that her back is to the learners, so she can't see what they're doing. At the end of the lesson, she's not doing much. She corrects answers one by one herself. And how about the learners? They aren't engaged in the lesson. They're copying text, and some will finish before others. They're working on their own and not talking to anyone. They're only copying and not thinking about the text or the topic. Also, they aren't asked to give any feedback on answers. It's definitely a teacher-centred lesson.
After I finished the lesson, I realized that some of the learners hadn't answered any questions. During the lesson, some of the learners were talking to each other and were drawing pictures in their books. When I looked at their notebooks, I could see that some of them hadn't finished copying the text from the board. I talked to a friend of mine who is an experienced teacher, and we discussed my lesson. I know that I could have changed a lot of things in my lesson. I could have asked the learners what they knew about London, so they would be a bit more interested in the topic. I should have anticipated some of the new words and pre-taught these. This would have helped the learners understand the passage better. I could have put gaps in the text when I wrote it on the board and asked the learners to work together to fill the gaps. I shouldn't have rubbed off the text on the board. For the comprehension questions, I could have dictated them or written them on pieces of paper before the lesson. I could have given different pairs of learners a question to answer in their notebooks. I should have moved around the classroom more to check the learners were working, then they wouldn't have drawn pictures in their books. I could have asked the learners to check their answers together, then correct the answers as a whole class. I shouldn't have sat at the front of the class.
Mauvavi. 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 Mauvavi.
Remember, getting your learners to talk more is a really important part of learner-centered lessons. Also, try to elicit answers from learners instead of just giving them. Don't forget to look out for quiet learners too, who really wish they had a chance to contribute. Now, concept checking. Remember the questions you were asked about past modals? Try to ask similar questions to your learners to check if they understand. Okay, in the next unit, you'll see how using pictures can be an effective and fun way to introduce grammar. And then, a bit of pronunciation practice. Welcome to the second unit. Did you know we have an expression in English that goes like this? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Which of course means I should have, I would have, I could have. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Well, in this unit, you'll do some pronunciation work with those phrases. though it'll sound more like should've and not shoulda. We'll be doing a lot of drilling together. But first, you're going to see how you can use pictures to introduce language structures. Do you ever do that? I think it's a really fun way to get learners interested in grammar without them even knowing it's grammar. This is Tom. He's a student. What does he study? What does Tom like doing? Tom's done his exams. What do you think the result will be? That's right, he failed his exams. What's he doing now? Tom's received an email. What's it about? Oh dear, where is Tom? Will he be on time for his interview? What happened? That's right, Tom missed the bus. Do you think he got the job?
I have a very close friend, very, very close friend. We have a very close contact, yeah? And he is going for interview tomorrow, and he wants to get a job. And I am eager for him to get this job. How should he appear when he goes to interview?
Shakir Ahmed holds up a big picture showing someone looking very scruffy and wearing old jeans. Clearly, he is not suitably dressed for a job interview.
Now, it is a picture of Ahmad. He is my best friend. How does he typically appear? Would this be appropriate appearance for his interview? No. So what is your advice for him? You should talk with him. You should tell him you should do this, you should not do this.
As we hear, the target language, in this case should and shouldn't, has been introduced naturally with the meaning made clear.
He should have a new suit.
Have a new suit. Well done. What else?
He should comb his hair.
He should polish his shoes.
Yeah? So, thank you very much.
The teacher writes the form on the board, points out the grammar as necessary, and checks the students' understanding. Students copy the form and spelling in their notebooks.
I could have changed a lot of things in my class. I shouldn't have sat at the front of the class. Of, could have, should have, shouldn't have. I could have changed a lot of things in my class. I shouldn't have sat at the front of the class. I could have asked the learners what they knew about London. I shouldn't have sat at the front. Could have, could have. I could have put gaps in the text. I could have put gaps in the text. Shouldn't have, shouldn't have. I shouldn't have rubbed off the text. I shouldn't have rubbed off the text. Could have, could have. I could have put learners in new groups. I could have put learners in new groups. Should have, should have. I should have moved around more. I should have moved around more. Wouldn't have, wouldn't have. They wouldn't have drawn in their books. They wouldn't have drawn in their books. Could have, could have. I could have asked the learners to work together. I could have asked the learners to work together.
Okay everybody, today we're going to be doing some sample drills. Listen and repeat after me when I tell you. If I were you, I wouldn't go. If I were you, I wouldn't go. If I were you, I wouldn't go. If I were you, I wouldn't go.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
Good.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
Good.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
If I were you, I wouldn't go. Everybody.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
Very good. Again.
If I were you, I wouldn't go.
Very good. Excellent. Have you ever been to Japan? 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 Everybody?
Have you ever been to Japan?
Very good. A little quicker.
Have you ever been to Japan?
Have you ever been to Japan?
Have you ever been to Japan?
China.
Have you ever been to China?
Panama.
Have you ever been to Panama?
London.
Have you ever been to London?
Glasgow.
Have you ever been to Glasgow?
Reykjavik.
Have you ever been to Reykjavik?
Las Palmas.
Have you ever been to Las Palmas?
Istanbul.
Have you ever been to Istanbul?
Excellent. Look at my hands. I went to the cinema yesterday. I went to the cinema yesterday. I went to the cinema yesterday. Everybody.
I went to the cinema yesterday.
Excellent. Again.
I went to the cinema yesterday.
Quicker.
I went to the cinema yesterday.
Okay, Funda.
Yesterday, cinema, the, to, went, I. I went to the cinema yesterday.
Good. Yavuz.
Yesterday, cinema, the, to, went, I. I went to the cinema yesterday.
Very good. Can you repeat?
I went to the cinema yesterday.
Good. Suzanne.
Yesterday, cinema, the, to, went, I.
Very good. Can you repeat?
I went to the cinema yesterday.
Excellent. Okay, listen to the sound of the word. Imaginative. 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 Can you all tap it with me on the table? 1, 2, 3. Imaginative. Good. Again. Imaginative. Funda.
Imaginative.
Yavuz.
Imaginative.
Very good. Suzanne.
Imaginative.
Good. And everybody together. Imaginative. Excellent. Okay. And the last word. Crocodile. 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 Everybody together. Crocodile. 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 Suzanne. Very good. Yavuz.
Crocodile.
Funda.
Crocodile.
Wonderful. Everybody together. Fantastic.
So that's the end of Unit 2. Do you think you may be able to introduce grammar using pictures in an upcoming lesson? Remember, you can use really simple pictures that you draw. Or maybe you can ask some of your artistic learners to draw a series of pictures for you. And once you have them, you can use them again and again. Okay, in the next unit, you'll think about your career as a teacher so far and what you've learned. Do you think that you've developed a lot since first starting to teach? Welcome to the last unit of the module. You're going to think a bit about when you first started teaching and see what other teachers feel they've learnt too. Reflection is such an important part of development, isn't it? It feels rewarding to look back and see how much you've developed. Reflection also helps you to see how you can develop further in the future. So, let's get reflecting.
Looking back, I think I would have told myself that when it comes to lesson planning, less is more. It's really important that you allow students time to consolidate the new language, they practice it, they personalise it, and you provide feedback on their production. I tended to whiz through activities just to say, okay, we've covered 2 or 3 pages. but now I take a look at each exercise or each language point and try to ensure that students have fully understood the meaning, the form, the pronunciation, and it's okay if it takes a little bit extra time in the lesson because the students are processing it.
I think I was too preoccupied with my identity, with the extent to which I perceived myself as a teacher and my students treated me as such. I probably would have noticed what my students' needs really were and tried to meet their needs, not mine.
I think I really should have watched other teachers teach early in my career. Observing other teachers is a great way of learning so much about how to teach, how to structure your lessons, how to work on materials, how to grade your language, so many different things. I really should have done it a lot more. If I'd asked my other colleagues, then I'm sure they would have said yes, and I could have observed lots of times. In fact, I think I only observed twice on my initial teacher training course, and that was it. So yes, I should have observed other teachers teaching a lot more.
Also, I think I would have told myself that it's okay if students aren't talking, it's okay if there's some silence in the lessons. I tended to get very scared that, okay, there's no one's talking, but that's because they're learning and they're taking in the language. So don't be afraid to have some silence in the class.
I'm sure that the beginning of my teacher career would have been smoother, emotionally speaking, if a mentor had helped me see the practical, contextualized relevance to me of what I had learned formally at university.
Movavi. 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 Movavi.
Moya agrees that exchanging ideas about teaching can be an important learning process. He suggests that teachers help each other with friendly observation.
I think that this area is really important for the situation we are focusing on, to have each other as a resource to learn about teaching. So maybe a simple thing, even though it will take teachers extra time to observe each other, but I think that way they can help each other to improve their teaching by observing.
Okay. How are you? So let's have a look here on the board. What's this? And? Are they nouns or verbs? Verbs.
You have to know that when somebody goes into your classroom, it's not because they're going to be just observing all of your bad points or your mistakes, but learning from it.
Neri makes it clear that this kind of observation needs to be a positive experience. It can help our professional development as teachers. Before you try this, think about what aspects of your teaching you want your colleague to focus on. Moya has some suggestions.
The teacher to be observed can say, "Please watch the way I deal with problems in the classroom, or the way I answer a student's question, or the way I introduce a new topic." Whatever area that is, the desire of the teacher to be observed can be agreed beforehand, and the other teacher sitting somewhere in the classroom making some notes. And then after the class that they get together at some point and share what happened and try to make use of it.
How was the lesson, class?
It was so fantastic.
Well, that's what we all like to hear. As a teacher and teacher trainer, I've certainly benefited from observation. Teachers can learn a lot from each other.
That's the end of Unit 3 and the end of the module. Do you feel now you can confidently talk about your past lessons using past modals like I could have and I should have? Try not to think of those phrases as expressions of regret, but rather as expressions of reflection. A good teacher is usually somewhere in a stage of reflection and development. Do you think that's true for you?